You know what's interesting, America? Step back and think about this, if you will. If President Trump is convicted of one of the major felonies that have been brought against him in a documents case, that have been brought against him in, it's not even a January 6th case, but in the Washington, D.C. case. And if he's sentenced to the full extent of the law, just one, he will die in prison. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about what the Biden regime, the Biden prosecutors, and the Obama judge are up to in Washington, D.C. I want you to think about it. They have secret trials in autocracies, fascist regimes, Marxist regimes. Much of what's been done to Donald Trump has been done in secret. They took away his attorney-client privilege in secret. They're using documents against him in secret. They're demanding that the judge in Washington, D.C. not allow Donald Trump and his lawyers to have access to the documents, all of them, many of which they intend to use against him, apparently in secret. They tried the same thing with the judge in Florida. She said, no, I'm not buying it. The Biden prosecutors are in court in front of the Obama judge saying, we want you to stop Donald Trump from talking about his case, from talking about witnesses, from talking about evidence, from talking about facts. You know, our Constitution compels a public trial, ladies and gentlemen, an open trial, so all of us can make a determination if a trial is fair or not. And here we're talking about a presidential candidate. The Biden regime, through their prosecutors, says no. Secrecy. We can't trust the defendant, who we seek to throw in prison for the rest of his life. We do not want him speaking to the American people. In fact, according to a recent news report a few hours ago, Trump's lawyer, this fellow Lauro, in the courtroom the other day, the so-called special counsel, a.k.a. the Stalinist prosecutor, apparently was very upset that Trump's lawyer was on TV. In the meantime, this morning we learned that the special counsel's office has leaked a memorandum to the New York Times. It must be very easy being a reporter at the New York Times. You just sit there and you wait for your emails and texts and the delivery of information from the Biden administration, the FBI, and the Justice Department. It's not hard. I don't even know why they get paid. And, of course, Maggie Haberman is the key to all this. You're in the Department of Justice, the FBI, you're in the Biden administration. They don't call her Maggie Haberman. They call her our girl. Get the stuff to our girl. Our girl is reliable. Our girl takes notes. She will write down what we tell her to report. Our girl will do it. And then she wins a Pulitzer Prize because the same cabal of crooked, corrupt, intellectually destitute reporters award themselves these prizes. Maggie Haberman, New York Times and CNN, two of the most disreputable so-called news organizations in history. In history. So she is breaking news. She has this memo that was leaked to her by the government. Now, how do we know that? How do we know it was leaked by the government? Because it's a memo, and here's the spin. The plot by Trump and his lawyers to deny Joe Biden electors and to get their own electors in these states where they're raising issues, where they're working with state legislatures, where they seek to drag out the election, whether the Supreme Court goes their way or not. So the only people who would leak that are the people in the special counsel's office. Why? Because it's in their indictments. Except they didn't put the memo itself in there. So they leaked it to the New York Times. The irony that the same people who leaked this document now are in front of a Obama judge saying that the defense cannot be trusted with this kind of information because they might go public with it. Now, if you watch my Sunday show 2 Sundays ago on Fox, you heard former governor of Virginia, Republican, Bob McDonnell, say that they leaked incessantly to the Washington Post and the New York Times. In his case, the Washington Post mostly because he was a governor, at the time was the governor of Virginia, and the Washington Post is the biggest paper read in Virginia, given its reach. But here they wanted to have national reach, so they leaked this memo to Maggie Haberman, took careful notes, and of course she will not mention who our sources are. Now, as a footnote, for the life of me, I do not understand why Donald Trump's lawyers haven't filed a motion today in that court, despite the fact that she's an Obama judge, just make the record, demanding that the court do something about these leaks. That the Department of Justice, yes, conduct a leak investigation. Can't be that complicated. But Mark, the department's corrupt. It doesn't matter. You're building a record. And you're also making it known to the nation, and you're making it known to the judge that you're not going to put up with this crap. Such a motion, to my knowledge, has not been filed today. How do I know? Well, I haven't read about it. It's not like I'm on the in. I'm not. I want you to think about this. Vladimir Putin just put his number one political nemesis in prison now for 30 years. And there's more charges to come, perhaps another 35 years. He's in his 40s. And he said, look, this is his political nemesis. Brave man. He said, look, I have a life sentence. I'll be in this prison until I die. Unless Vladimir Putin is overthrown and there is a freedom revolution of sorts. As he's replaced. He says he knows. Now, this is the same man they tried to murder with poison. They take care of him in Germany, get him back on his feet, and he goes right back into Russia. He knows what he's facing. Here in the United States, same thing's happening in many ways. Except here, Biden's not as good at this as Putin is. They have public charges against Donald Trump that would result in his being in prison if every one of them is sustained and the maximum sentence is given. Over 400 years. They don't mess around, you see. I want you to think about something. And all the hurly-burly and all the static that come out of the media and all the rest of it, I want you to think about something. Is Bill Barr on TV bloviating, burping up stupidity, joined by his twin, Chris Christie, and other. I want you to think about something. The possibility that Donald Trump, a candidate for president, a former president, will have a mugshot taken, will be forced to wear an orange jumpsuit, will be sent away to prison somewhere in the federal prison system over the documents case or over the non-January 6 charges. The documents case based on a 1917 statute. The January 6 so-called case based on a Ku Klux Klan statute and other irrelevancies. I want you to put that in your mind's eye. And I want to ask you a question. Do you think you could ever recover from that? Do you think you could ever recover from seeing such a thing? From such a thing being done in your country? By the Democrat Party? By a mob lawyer who is running the Department of Justice? By a Stalinist, evil, piece of human excrement who's the prosecutor? It's my opinion. By Joe Biden, the Manchurian president who is corrupt up to his eyeballs? Will you ever view your country the same way? Will you ever view the legal system the same way? Will you ever view the judiciary the same way? No, you won't. Will you ever accept an election where a Democrat wins? No, you won't. Will you ever accept the legitimacy of Democrat majorities in the House and or the Senate or a Democrat president? No, you won't. Neither will I. How can you accept any of this when a tyrannical party is burning down one bridge after another from the American people to the government, is abusing its power and its authority this way, and talks about when it gets full power how it's going to destroy our constitutional order? You know, it's really interesting to me. Other than 3 justices on the Supreme Court, Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch, the other 6, even the Republicans, are fools. They are absolute buffoons. And I will tell you why. Because as they sit there and they issue their rulings about whether the state legislature is the primary force in changing our election laws and pass judgment on redistricting and so forth and so on, they're the target of the same tyrannical forces who are destroying our electoral system and our legal system and our constitutional system. They're the target. Why do you think the mob lawyer who heads the Department of Justice told the U.S. Marshals to stand down and don't arrest anybody who's trying to intimidate any of the conservative justices? Why do you think he did that? They have no respect for the Constitution, so they have no respect for the court. They have no respect for elections, so they have no respect for you. Every election they win is perfect. Every election they lose is corrupt. When it comes to Trump, they did everything they could to stop him from being elected. He gets elected and they talk about impeaching him in advance of his being sworn in. The Democrats, Hillary and the rest, work with the FBI, Department of Justice, the Obama and Biden administration, that we now know, to try and take Trump out in the earliest days of his presidency. They're setting up grounds for impeachment. They just have to figure out what to impeach him for. They set up a criminal investigation involving people like Andrew Weissman, who is a hitman for the Democrat Party. They couldn't find any crimes. So they bring the guy in from The Hague, who has a horrendous record of abusing power and abusing defendants, which is exactly what he's doing today. And somehow his case in Washington winds up in front of the most radical, Obama-donating, Obama-appointed judge in the federal judiciary.